All right, so it's been a little while since I took a look at the living room setup. Originally, I had done this because I needed to have a separate place to kind of like be able to play games and relax without necessarily being in here on the editing rig. So today we're going to see how that goes. After all, it's supposed to be a 4K setup, right? So, all right, so kind of a little bit of a quick review here. The system has a Ryzen 5 5600 in it. It's accompanied by an RX 6600 XT from AMD. It does pretty well. I believe it's an ASRock Challenger card. So I thought it was either going to have to be at 1080p or at 4K. Now, obviously, I was worried about this because the 6600 XT is a mid-range, maybe just a little bit better card. Nah, we're going to say mid-range card. There's a lot of cards out there that are much, much better. But how well would it actually do? So we're taking a look at a couple things, and I'll kind of go back and forth between some of the slides showing the frames and some of the actual what was going on when I was trying to benchmark. But I was actually really, really pleased with how well this turned out. It was better than I thought. I thought at best I would be getting console type numbers like 30 frames per second, and I actually did just a little bit better than that in some cases. For instance, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we're only going to test about a handful of games, not my normal slate, and I'm not going to try to keep up with all of them. I normally test 10 or 11, and I'll show like 7 or 8. We're only going to do about 5 games this time, just a handful. But starting with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we got 50 frames per second on high, 52 in the middle, and 72, which is all of it was very playable. The 52 frames per second for medium, 4K medium, looked just fine, no problems at all. There was a little bit, sometimes on the high, there was just a little bit of tearing you could see, but it wasn't really that noticeable. Fairly smooth on medium, and it looked pretty good at 72 frames per second on the low. Keep in mind, this TV is only a 4K 60, but it didn't look too bad. I was pretty happy with that type of result. Borderlands 3 was a little bit different. It also is where I got some of my little bit higher temperatures. Both the video card and CPU at different times ran a little bit warmer one way or the other. This one's notorious for making a GPU run a little warmer, and it was between 78 and 81. I didn't get any warmer than 81, which is fine. I can live with that. There's not a lot of ventilation in that case. That's a Corsair 220T, and it's okay. So it did all right. 58 frames per second on medium, for pretty playable. And it was on all 3 of these, it looked fairly smooth. I didn't notice any real tearing or anything like that. I was pretty actually really, really surprised with Borderlands, because usually if there's some weird stuff going on, a lot of times this is the game I'll see it in. With Far Cry 6, boy, all 3 of these resolutions. Don't get me wrong. Now you can play this a little over 50 at medium and a little over 60 at low, and you can probably lock in the frame rate and keep it from tearing and all, but it was noticeable. On every run that I ran, it was noticeable, and it looked jittery and jumpy, and I just even right there at 60 frames per second on low, 62 frames, it still, the game, the textures and everything looked okay, but it did look jittery and jumpy, and that was a little bit of a concern. So there might have to be some tweaks made to try to work on this one a little bit. Horizon Zero Dawn, that's always my great equalizer, I guess you could say. This actually looked pretty smooth. Now it didn't look great. I'm not going to say it. There was a little bit of jumpiness, a little bit of tearing in some portions, mainly at favorite quality, which is the high setting. There's an ultimate quality, which is basically the highest setting, or ultra. But I tested high, medium, and low basically in all of these. There was a little bit more noticeable tearing in the high than there was at medium and low. But medium looked really, really good on this. I wasn't upset at all. I couldn't complain. And the favorite performance looked really good as well. So this game is definitely playable. Even though it's not at 60 frames per second, still very, very playable. And then finally we went ahead and ran Cyberpunk, because who knows? And the thing about Cyberpunk is it does have ray tracing. I didn't turn ray tracing on here, but by default, some of the settings will automatically put like the fidelity super resolution automatically on during your setting when you're trying to change for high, medium, low, etc. This looked pretty decent at high. Medium looked pretty decent, and I did notice a little bit of And when it would put it on low, and I guess it's just because of the frame rate kind of being stuck in between or more than that 60 enough to kind of like make things a little bit weird. There was a little bit of tearing and all there, but overall, this looked really good, and it was really surprising. Especially the medium. I would be able to play on medium all day long. I'd play any one of these games on medium all day long. It really turned out much better than I thought. And I was pretty surprised. Now keep in mind that I didn't go through and I didn't do 1440p and 1080p and all that like I usually do. I did that when I was actually building it, and that is in a separate video. But this was just kind of testing the living room setup, and I still sort of do have it cobbled together. I don't have a wireless keyboard and mouse yet, and some things just aren't quite long enough to reach. So I did kind of have to pull the PC out just a little bit to be able to make sure everything was long enough for me to play with. I'm debating. I'm probably going to go ahead and get a wireless keyboard and mouse. And I think with some of these games, there's some stuff that I still did like playing on the controller when I had it on console that I might go ahead and get a controller for, just to see if it's not any better playing with that. Most of these games will play nicely with an Xbox controller, so I don't see why I couldn't set something up and get something going that way. But overall, I was really surprised. Sounds great through the sound system. I've got that Sony soundbar with a subwoofer set up. I didn't have any kind of problems trying to negotiate through any menus or set anything up or hook anything up. It looked really good sitting there. It is on a little caddy, so it's not directly on the floor. But overall, this turned out to be a pretty good setup. The only thing that really bothers me is if I do start playing with a controller, then all I've done basically is just spent more money setting up a console. But I can do so much more with this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff for the PC itself I can do. But I did set this up as a gaming PC, and I did set this up as something that I would, be able to just kind of relax and hang out, and instead of watching TV, just play some games or something. And it's worked out pretty well. I still spend a far amount more time here in front, sitting at this desk working on stuff, and sometimes even playing games. But it is nice to have the option, and sometimes it's nice to be able to just get out of what is the work environment and go relax for a little while. So I'm glad to be able to do that. I don't know if I'm going to try to stream from in there. I would have to change things in the setup just a little bit. It's probably still easier to stream from this setup, but I can see maybe getting used to it and maybe eventually doing it. And it might not work out too bad, so we'll see what happens. Don't know if I would end up doing a video from that environment. I think they're all going to be from this, but I could see maybe trying to use part of it as a backdrop or something. So we'll see how that goes too. The machine's perfectly capable of it. I mean, it would definitely be capable of doing what I needed to do, gaming and streaming and all that stuff at the same time. It's just... well, I don't know there because it does have an AMD video card, which might not be the best for trying to stream because I can't use the NVENC encoder that would normally be on an NVIDIA GPU, which I do in here. But yeah, maybe we'll see. Well, yeah, that's further down the road. That's not even close. What I wanted to look at here was just to see if it would play 4K games, how it would hold up, how it would stand up, and if it was worth the effort that I put into it, or if I was just going to have to play it on 1080p. Like I did my Xbox and like I did my PlayStation 4. Glad I answered that question though. 4K really looks good with these games, and very playable. So I'm very happy I did it. Anyway, that's just a quick update. That is all I have for right now. I will a little bit later, I guess around midweek or so, I'm going to have a winter update. Some things that are going on with the channel, some things that I've been able to accomplish, what to kind of expect, and then after that, I might have. What might turn into, no, not going to go there yet because I haven't nailed it down. I don't know for sure what's going to happen, but it might be something very nice for somebody for Christmas. So we'll have to see. Anyway, like I said, that is all I have. So I'm going to ask you to do one other thing besides hit me up on YouTube, doing all those YouTube things like, subscribe, hit me up on the other socials and all that. I'm just going to ask you to be nice to each other out there. Wave, smile, hold the door open, something, anything. Just do maybe just a little bit of something to make somebody's day just a little bit better. It'll make you feel better, make them feel better. Everybody's happy, right? What can it hurt? You might find out you like it. They might find out they like it. They might do it to somebody else. You paid it forward, so there. Anyway, I've taken up enough of the time so far this morning. I will get into some other stuff and we'll see what happens. But until then, I'll see you later.